Some millionaires have so much money that they can't get that thrill anymore. They have everything they need, so they get bored. Sometimes they turn to a life of crime. Let's talk about Delon Millard, the Playboy millionaire who became a murderer. Delon was born August 30th, 1985, in Toronto, Canada. He was a smart kid. By the age of 14, he'd learned how to fly both a helicopter and an airplane. He was from a wealthy family, and he had everything he could ever wish for.
It's like holding a plate on your finger, trying to keep that thing straight, and it was very much different, but I got used to it.
With his family's support, he had his whole life in front of him. When you're not financially strained, you can truly follow your heart's desire and pursue any career you want. But something wasn't right. In the beginning, it was mostly harmless. He would throw wild parties at his big mansion with a swimming pool. He would always make sure he was surrounded by gorgeous women. As you could assume, it wasn't hard for him to get the ladies' attention. He was able to fulfill any material wish, and he was pretty good looking too. However, this wasn't enough for him, and he seemed to be generally unhappy. Around the time he was 20, he dropped out of college, and he also started drinking heavily and doing hard drugs. And that's when it all went downhill. He chose the path to a life of crime.
And just knowing the kind of that he was doing, it was clear that he was looking to really push the limits in all areas of his indulgences, and I think that he thought he was untouchable. I really just think it was like a God complex.
There was robbery involved, dealing, and filming adult videos with women inside his planes. But he wasn't alone. During this time, Delon had met 23-year-old Mark Schmidt, a rapper and wannabe gangster. His family was middle class, and he had a history of petty crime. He and Delon became inseparable, and it only got worse from that point on. Laura was a 23-year-old graduate at the University of Toronto, a daughter, a loyal friend, and dog lover with big dreams of becoming an actress one day.
She was the type of friend that would call you 20 times a day just because she wanted to be in touch. She was glued to her phone, but she had so many friends. She was full of life. She was the life of the party.
In 2008, she met Delon at Toronto's Brunswick House pub. As you could probably guess, she was quickly lured in by Delon with the promise of a luxurious lifestyle. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before that beautiful lifestyle turned into a nightmare. But before the nightmare began, the two broke up. Things weren't really working out, and it seemed like the most logical solution. Laura then started dating a man named Sean in 2011. He is a journalist and an author, but most of all, a good guy, and he loved Laura from the bottom of his heart. However, they too parted ways but remained close friends. When Laura turned 22, Sean threw her a birthday party in Toronto. He even invited her other ex, Delon. Many people didn't like him due to his rich boy antics, but no one suspected Delon was anything more. Sean, being polite as he was, invited him thinking it would make Laura happy. A year later, Laura started having mental health issues. She developed anxiety and depression. She was even homeless from time to time and had started working as a paid escort. Seeking a better life, she made the mistake of getting in touch with Delon again, who had a girlfriend at the time. So he sent her a text message. "You are harmful to me. Please don't try to contact me." Then he texted his girlfriend and showed his hatred towards Laura. "First, I'm going to hurt her. Then I'm going to make her leave. I will remove her from our lives." From those texts, it seems kind of obvious what he's going to do, but no one took it seriously. In the meantime, Laura was losing all hope. Sean often helped her with food and shelter. He was always there for her. However, it was not enough. So Laura decided to contact Delon again, but this time, Delon responded better. In the summer of 2012, Laura and Delon finally met again. Laura even hoped that they might end up together again. However, after going to Delon's house, poor Laura was never seen or heard from again. The police are soon notified she was missing but did not react. They probably checked her background and erratic living situations and thought that she would turn up. Her troubled past was a good enough excuse for the police not to investigate.
And the response is pretty much, she'll turn up. She's high risk. She's working as an escort. Oh, she has mental health problems. She'll turn up.
Since the police weren't going to do anything about it, Sean started looking into it on his own. After thoroughly investigating, he found clear evidence. Laura's last phone calls were to Dellen. Still, Toronto police weren't interested for some reason.
Her last 8 phone calls were to Dellen Millard. The police never come to question him. He must have thought he was invincible. I mean, it's unbelievable when you think about what happened that he got away with it.
Is it because millionaires are above the law and get special treatment? Or Laura's shady past? We can only guess. So where was Laura? On July 3rd, Dellen sent a text to his friend Mark. I'm on a mission. Back in 1 hour. Dellen had a personal incinerator installed by his dad's business's airplane engineers. An incinerator is used to burn large objects, such as human bodies. He wanted to keep this as his body disposal machine by sending the dead into the fire. He even lovingly named it the Eliminator. He lured Laura home with his charm and truly meant what he texted his girlfriend. He shot her and then took a photo of her lifeless body with his dog sitting next to her. Then he turned on the Eliminator and texted Mark. BBQ has run its warm-up. It's ready for meat. Then they burned her body inside that awful thing. Laura was only 23 when she was brutally taken away. Worse, her disappearance was ignored for a whole year. All the while, Dellen was ready to strike again. Dellen was not a good businessman. His father, Wayne Miller, noticed this and came out of retirement to fix the business Dellen was on the verge of ruining. Dellen didn't like this, so tensions between him and his father grew rapidly. In late 2012, one of the workers there who noticed this said,
All I know is what I was told, is that Dell's father was going to cut him off because Dell was spending too much money and was not taking responsibility for the business, and his father was not going to let him ruin the business that him and his father, Dell's grandfather, had started.
Soon enough, Dellen's father was found dead with a gunshot to his eye. The police suspected that he had ended his own life. Very rich people often end up under a lot of pressure if their businesses are failing, and the police thought maybe Wayne had made bad deals with the wrong people and had reached wit's end. But if he'd taken his own life, why did he shoot himself in the eye? Once again, the police didn't investigate what seemed to be an obvious murder. Dellen escaped again. Tim Bosma was a church-going husband and proud 32-year-old father. He was married to Charlene Bosma, and he was liked and respected in his community. In 2013, Tim decided to sell his truck to 2 buyers who wanted to test it before committing to the purchase. It was getting late, and the buyers still weren't there to meet with Tim. He was getting a bit suspicious, but decided to go along with it anyway.
Tim seemed to be kind of unsettled a little bit, because he had said, who comes this late? And we're like, this is weird.
Worst case scenario, someone might steal his truck. At least, that's what he thought. So they agreed to meet in the evening for the test drive at an isolated location. Right before Tim took off to meet with them, they parked their 2 black SUVs just a bit further from Tim's driveway, but close enough for the home security camera to record them. Although it's uncertain why they chose to go with 2 cars, they started to follow him. When they reached Dellen's deserted airplane hangar, where the incinerator was, they shot him straight away, then carried him in their truck and burned him in the Eliminator. They literally cremated a person that burned all night long. Dellen had become a notorious serial killer, but Dellen's rampage was coming to a sudden end. In 2013, the Toronto police found the bullets that had killed Tim. Soon, they matched them to the gun that had Dellen's fingerprints on it. Dellen was thus arrested for Tim's murder. But a local biker testified to seeing the 2 black SUVs around the area, connecting them to the thick black smoke he saw rising from the incinerator. The police found the Eliminator. Inside were charred remains of Laura. It wasn't long until the police started to realize that Dellen's father probably did not take his own life. Dellen and his partner in crime, Mark, were charged with first-degree murder.
Dylan Millard, 28 years, has now been formally charged with first-degree murder in relation to the deaths of Wayne Millard and Laura Babcock.
Justice was finally served, and for all three crimes, both Dellen and Mark were sentenced to life in prison with possibility of parole after 25 years. Some might argue that there should be no possibility for parole at all, but I'll leave that to you guys to discuss in the comments. But Dellen wasn't giving up. Money and status had protected him so far, so he was sure he would get out of prison. He started to write letters from prison to his ex-girlfriend, coaching her on what to say. To get out of this bind, I need help. We need to get our story straight. I need to know what you're willing to do. Whatever you believe, it needs to be put aside. This is what happened. Later, when she was reported missing, you asked me if I knew anything. I told you that Mark had told me that she had OD'd, probably from mixing prescriptions with Mark's. We read this a couple of times, then destroyed it immediately. Naturally, it did not work. Unbelievably though, the police finally gave a public statement about the entire embarrassment on their side.
I can confirm at this time that there appears to be phone contact on July 3rd, 2012 between Laura Babcock and Mr. Dellen Millard. The investigation was thorough and employed all of the traditional methods used in any missing persons case.
Still, they didn't apologize or take responsibility. On the contrary, they played politics. While the male police officer was talking about the day, date, and time of Dellen Millard's interrogation, he was sitting in front of him with his hands folded and acting very calm to try and fool the officers. But his expressions and fear on his face were telling the true story. Early in the interrogation, the officer asked Dellen,
"Do you understand your right to choose whether or not to make a statement?"
Dellen immediately stopped looking at the officer and started looking down. The breaking of eye contact shows he may be feeling mixed emotions of embarrassment, fear of getting caught, and nerves. But he tried to stay composed and said,
"Yes, I understand that."
His tactic may have changed at this point and realized that he has no way of getting out of this. Both officers were peaceful throughout the investigation, and with their calm and polite manner, they created a false sense of security for Dellen to make him open up and explain the whole story. Dellen stayed extremely coherent and emotionally grounded during the interrogation. He was confessing his crimes with ease. These are clear signs of Dellen being a psychopath. There are many signs that indicate that someone might be a psychopath. Dellen showed at least 3 of them, maybe even the most important ones. Number 1, lack of remorse or guilt. Number 2, pathological lying. And number 3, criminal versatility, meaning that he commits diverse types of crimes. The detective knew that if he made direct contact with Dellen's eyes, he might snap out of his flow of confessions, and nerves may make him change his statement. So they were continuously looking at their notepads and were writing Dellen's answers for each question while he waited for their next query. Usually when criminals sit in front of police officers while being interrogated, they feel scared. Sometimes they don't even answer the question because of their fear. But in Dellen's case, he was casually answering everything and giving immense detail.
His actual street isn't Old Abbey, it's another small side street, but I don't know the name of it.
While talking about the incident, he was even using his hand gestures to signify things that paint a clearer picture.
Sounds like a big glass bottle like that. So you probably do one of those in 2 weeks.
While describing a bottle to the officer, he gestures the size with his hands. He seemed to have pride over his crime and wanted everyone to know the intricacies of it. Dellen knew that he was considered a suspect in his father's murder, and he was well aware of the fact that he was being interrogated for it as well. His relaxed position during the whole interrogation reminds me of a young student at a casual job interview, or a defiant boy telling the principal he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't even remove his hat or the bag from his shoulder. These moves show his way of saying he's innocent. He tried to make the officers believe that his father ended his own life because his business wasn't going well.
Was there a chance the business was going to fail? And
yeah, that chance is more than a chance.
Okay, and how soluble is your dad if the business fails?
Yeah, everything that we have is in this business, including loans on the house, and including a large loan from RBC Bank for the business itself.
It's strange how easily he confessed to the other murders but refused to confess to this one. Maybe there was an extra layer of added shame to killing his father. Or he simply denied it as the police didn't have enough evidence to convict him of it. The officer then asked Dellen,
Does your dad own other properties?
She's got something else. Knows.
And this was the moment when Dellen seemed the most nervous, as he literally got up from his chair a little and then sat again. It was very obvious that he was trying to distract the officers for a few seconds so that he could cook up a new story or just mold his answer in such a way that it goes in his favor. A similar moment happened when another question was asked, which made Dellen a bit confused and nervous.
What pilot license? Are you a helicopter pilot?
Yeah, I'm a helicopter pilot, and I have that at the private license level, which is, do you know the different levels?
No.
This time, his anxiety became obvious when he unnecessarily repositioned his hat. Although it wasn't displaced, it gave Dellen a few seconds to think of something favorable to say and plan his strategy. The whole interrogation was a very smooth process that felt like a casual conversation, then an official police interview. Perhaps it was a strategy for the police officers to trap Dellen and make him tell the whole truth. Well, if this was the case, it actually worked. Dellen will be spending at least most of his life in prison. And there you have it, guys. A millionaire playboy who could have had anything he wanted, but he chose to be a serial killer. It is a truly upsetting story. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please leave a like and subscribe for more chilling videos. See you next time, and stay safe.